You are listening to The Growth Signal. My name is Alyssa Nolte,
And my name is Gal Borenstein.
and we're going to get right into it. Tell us, what is your hot take?
Well, my hot take is something that I've been seeing in the past 6 months, and it is the thought that knowledge workers are having more and more that they're going to be either displaced or replaced or become irrelevant to their job by the intensity of building the AI agents. And I think it's could not be further from the truth. Because in reality, AI is not supposed to replace you. It's supposed to make you more productive. And the same hysteria that people had when voicemail came a few years back. And they said, well, what will happen when I pick up the phone or I have to return all the calls? And then software came and kind of bridged that together. So what's really important with AI, and this is my hot take, is stop hiding and stop thinking about how to use it for short-term fixes and think about it as how can I take this new hype, this new employee, and make them as productive as possible. And at the end of the day, remember that AI does not have emotions. AI does not have the cognitive psychological ability to make good decisions or bad decisions for you. This is your job. Whether you're a copywriter in an agency, whether you're an executive in a big fortune company, a technology company, it doesn't really matter. The brain never goes away. So if you're concerned about being displaced or being replaced, the only place that I would look is, are you doing your job and are you actually learning about the future? Because when you stop learning, you're going to lose your job because there's somebody else who's more motivated than you.
I am excited to talk about this because I think there is this misconception amongst a lot of business owners, business leaders, team leaders that AI is the future thing that they have to start implementing in order to keep up with their competition. And what I have found is AI is only as good as I am, right? Like it's almost like an amplifier of my skills, my knowledge, my capabilities. And it's not going to replace that because it requires someone who understands the tool, the technology, and has original thoughts and experiences to drive it forward.
Absolutely. And really kind of at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day, um, AI is all about being prompted to take something and make it come faster to you in terms of input or output. And it's based on the thoughts and the ideas that you basically create. And unlike what people think, because they go on ChatGPT at night, I said, hey, what do I say to the teacher in school? What do I say? Yeah, what is the review of the latest Samsung TV that came out? Just as a pedestrian examples, um, you still have to make the decision. So the best way to kind of think about where AI is and where it is going, AI is an extra brain that you have that can access information that is already in existence. And then it can give you the three theories or the three options for the Samsung TV, just for simplifying it. But you still need to tell them, I'm interested in an high definition television that will fit my uh, place of work or my home. And as long as you're able to kind of think about it as an assistant, uh, you're able to kind of create your own prompts, which are another way of saying, what do I want this person to do? And something that the CEO of NVIDIA said very recently kind of described it in my mind as a very good way to think about it. He said basically that today AI is basically a brain that doesn't have legs and doesn't have feet uh, and hands for that matter. So it can see a lot, but it can't really move or walk or run. And if you're able to understand that, you understand that basically AI is almost like a person in a coma that can give you some information, but develop the legs and the hands and decide where you want to walk. You're not going to walk anywhere. And building your business and growing your business is all about challenging the axioms and whatever is in front of you that might be a challenge. So developing your own employees, as I said before, whether it's growth, whether it's operations, this is the time to actually say, how can I work with AI as opposed to how can I get rid of it or pretend that it doesn't exist? Well, it does exist. And as sure as that the sun is coming up tomorrow morning, that's as sure as AI is going to continue being there. And the only difference is you're going to be either in or you're going to be out. And those who are out and don't have another skill set, that's really where the rubber meets the road.
I want to go back to something you said a few minutes ago that was about the AI can help you, but you still have to make a choice. And I hear complaints from people all the time that there's a bunch of like AI slop out there, right? So they're creating something and they're just putting it out there without any kind of revision or thought process that goes into it. And for me, the idea, exactly what you said, of the choice to just blindly follow AI is still a choice that you are making. So how do we think of AI not as our great savior of our business, but rather the new hire that's going onto the team and start to integrate that into our daily work for growth and speed and as you said, like not just blindly following it, but actually moving it forward in a decision.
Well, by default or by design, AI really has two tracks. The track that we're used to seeing every day is called generative AI, which essentially uh, you have a question and it basically scans the web for every resource that is available online and comes back with an output. And then if you don't program it correctly, you might get information is completely false, but still meets the narrative that you're interested in getting. So you could be putting, what do I do with my 16 employees in my company that used to be or are in accounting? When we're implementing all this CRM technology and Salesforce and whatever we're integrating, we won't need those people. So tell me what I can do with them. So you fed a narrative that then AI to the generative AI part is doing exactly the robot job and it's giving you an answer. Many times it's giving you hallucinations, which are something that we see very often, where when you kind of push AI, like you're pushing like an employee on the first day beyond what they know, they kind of bounce back. ChatGPT bounced back, OpenAI, Perplexity. It doesn't matter which one of the AI companies. They're all based on the principle that they're going to provide you information. They cannot and will not disappoint you. They will continue to ask you, what is it that you want? Or let me think about it in a different way. But people need to pay attention to the hallucination part, because that is really where credibility is lost, reputation is lost, brands are suffering. And once that happens, it really kind of is a short way to failure. On the other hand, AI has something that's called learning modules, or they call it LLM. And it's really all about developing something that will be in your voice, based on your experiences, based on, think about it as being interviewed and learning about your personality. And at the same time, learning every time you input something into that system, it learns about you as a person. So for example, if you keep on asking, is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Uh, or you say, can you give me three different answers to the question? And suddenly you see that the questions and the answers are not the same. They know that you're a person that pays attention to details. And then it comes together in the sense that, and this is really where all the development is happening right now. They call them the bot agents. But for any kind of job that people used to take a week or 4 weeks or 8 weeks to complete a project, I'll use a market research study, for example, where we needed to go to 10 universities and do competitive intelligence analysis by looking at competitor websites. What are their taglines? How do they serve their clients? What is their voice of their customer? All these things used to be weeks and months of work that really kind of consumed a lot of resources and not necessarily for the best. Now you can teach by asking the right questions and providing that input and kind of grooming or growing the brain of your agent, which essentially is another word for somebody who's going to be your helper, but it will be a very smart helper because they didn't stop listening to you when you left the office. They keep on working on adding more value to what you're doing. And I think that is really scary for a lot of people because they feel like if they know me, they can replace me. And the foundation of it, it's not wrong to think that that can happen, but it's not different than having a graduate from a great university that comes with great skills into a company and winds up being able to kind of do 20x things that what you could do every day. So if you're able to if you're a manager, think about it as how do I train my employee to be doing the work of 10 people with the substance and the persona and the voice and the tone that I would do so they can represent the brand, as we call it. And at the same time, what do I do with customer complaints? What's the best way to approach them? Here are my ethics. Here are my values for the company. And I would like my responses to reflect that. So then, based on learning my values and my ethics and governance and whatever it is that you have to put into being a great customer service organization, that really kind of gets implemented. And when it gets implemented, it allows you to really become a better organization.
One of the things that I'm finding as I'm exploring the different, language models out there, right? So I was an OG ChatGPTer, right? Before you could even pay for this thing, I was a daily user, and then, I started playing with Claude recently to do some vibe coding, and now I'm exploring, Gemini and some of the stuff that they've got going in there, and one of the hardest parts for me was that my ChatGPT really knows me and knows, like, I don't want certain things, certain words, certain approaches to be used. And then I'm going over to Gemini, for example, and I'm finding it doesn't know me yet. So every time I write something into it, it'll be like, "What an insightful and thoughtful thing you just said." And I'm like, "No, it wasn't. It was a simple question." Don't, like, make it into something that it's not, right? Because I wanna be very straightforward and factual, and I'm looking for a sparring partner in thought process. I'm not looking for someone to just make me feel good about my ideas, right? My favorite ChatGPT prompt is "roast this," because 'cause I'll give it something and I'll say, "Now make fun of this," so that I can see it for what it is and see all the blind spots. And it's been an interesting experience when you go to a new LLM and you've kinda got your old one trained up to have to relearn how to use that specific language model versus the one that you've been using this whole time, right? It's almost like having to train a brand new hire, even though it's the same concept of artificial intelligence.
Yes. And I think there is a little trick for your audience and for anybody who's interested. Even on ChatGPT now, they just released the latest version and Claude. There is now a button next to your profile that you can go in and say, I would like to be using let's say, a professional tone. I want to sound like a lawyer. I need
Yep.
to sound like a technologist. And it basically forces the machine to learn how to speak the language of the customer that you're trying to communicate with or get the data that will be appropriate to that. So that bridge is kind of being fixed, but certainly it's a long way from what you described, which would be somebody that can give you an extension of yourself. So
Yep.
instead of dealing with 10 issues that are all the same answer at the end of the day, it really solves new problems and you can actually give the client what they need.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the day when there's like one universal interface for it. And then I put in my question or my prompt and it just pulls the right model, right? Because Claude is better at writing and code, and Gemini is better at real time search, and ChatGPT is better at, whatever. And I'm just like gonna put it out into the universe. Somebody make this app, and when you make it, come talk to me, because I would love like one universal place where I can say, okay, this is what I'm doing, and then it pulls the right model.
Of course,
That'll get there someday. So, when you're thinking about the biggest blind spot when it comes to businesses trying to bring in AI, or an individual who's trying to really learn it for the first time, right? That knowledge expert who is hearing what you're saying and is saying to themselves, "Okay, I'm not going to be afraid of it anymore. I'm going to do it for real." Where do they start? What's the first thing that you have them start doing?
the first thing is in the old days, and when I said the old days, like last year and the
It
years
does feel
before,
like that, doesn't it?
it's like it feels like decades. If you came up with an idea or a concept to your boss in an organization, or if you're an entrepreneur, you had to present to a bank something that's called a business plan. The business plan had different sections in it. It had what we're going to stand for, our vision, our mission,
Right.
our financial performa, where we see the market opportunity. So think about each one of those modules as a story that has to be told in order to gain acceptance and to gain some form of a positive response that allows you to kind of say, tell me more about it and give me some ideas on how to communicate that. What most people do, they actually don't really ask any questions. They basically say, and I see it all the time on social media where an influencer saying, guess what? You never have to read a book anymore because I put the book in and then in 10 seconds, I'm showing you a whole book basically summarized. But who knows what is being summarized? It could be true. It could be false. And most importantly, you're reacting versus being proactive about how do you communicate. So going back to the metaphor of a business plan, if you think about a corporation, a company that has an HR department, that has talent acquisition, that has growth organization, that half of them deals with getting existing customer to buy more, which we call the embedded base. And the other one, the people that basically are going on cold hunting trips to actually acquire new customers. So the difference between the thinking process, to answer your question, really, is that if you're thinking about going into the office and you have a project, think about what are the questions that you need to answer in order to be satisfied as a professional, whether you're in design, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a lawyer, with services, products, whatever it is that will help you get to the next step versus going to ChatGPT and asking, what's the best solution to helping me cheat the company by uh, entering the data in certain ways so it looks like I worked 80 hours a week instead of 60 hours a week. And I think that's the approach that most people are taking. They see it as a shortcut. They see ChatGPT and all the other companies like Google and Perplexity really as a venue to be entertained and to answer kind of sporadic questions, but they don't fit the plan. They don't fit your responsibility. So if you think again as an enterprise where a company has different positions, each position has values attached to it, how you do business, what's the protocol to doing things. And you can certainly teach a protocol that you can't replace the judgment of the human being. So my recommendation is think business first. Think about how you want things done to produce your mission outcomes, which is a military term, but is very much applies here. Business is war. And if you don't know what results you're going to get before you start shooting, that's going to be an open-ended war, right? Where nobody knows who's going to win. But if you come with mission outcomes and you say, I'm trying to achieve 20% growth and 30% reduction in redundancy, and I'd like to incorporate new technology into the company. Now you got kind of objectives and outcomes that you're looking to get at the end. And then you reverse engineer it to the first question. What is the problem that I'm looking to solve in order to get those mission outcomes? And AI helps you along the way to give you kind of some logical, mostly logical paths to pick. But if you don't pick it, it'll pick it for you. And it's going to be like a rabbit hole that you never know where you're going to get out.
Considering all the people that you know or aspire to know, who else should we be paying attention to?
Well, I think that especially now where there's so many thought leaders out there, I kind of look back and continue to reread the Why book by Simon Sinek. And because at the end of the day, that's where we're kind of losing it in a sense as kind of human beings, where we think that the what and the who are replacing the actual question of why. Why are we doing things? And Simon Sinek is, you probably know, is kind of a philosopher. While not being a philosopher, he knew and identified something that is at the heart of being successful in any profession. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that mission, which is the why, you don't have your own personality, you don't have your own set of values, and I mean ethical values, cultural values in a company, and people don't know why they're doing it other than make money and get fired, you're going to lose. So this is, I recommend for everybody to read that book because it will open your eyes to the question of what is the purpose of having a job and what is the purpose of having the ability to really understand why you're going to be spending all this time on strategy X or strategy Y. And I think that's really kind of very inspirational because it helps me sometimes stop and say, did I go too far? Did I just work 200 hours for nothing? And sometimes I find out I did because I didn't ask the question why.
I understand that you have some books that we should learn about. Tell us more about your books, where we can pick them up, what they're called, and what we can expect to find if we grab a copy.
Sure. Number one, I wanted to offer all the listeners to the show an opportunity to get an ebook version. If you are able to contact me through my profile on LinkedIn, Gal Borenstein, and then or otherwise use my email, which is gal@borensteingroup.com, or through our website at www.borenstein.com, borensteingroup.com. You should be able to request the book, a copy of the book, and for the listeners in the show, we'll be happy to provide it. And in fact, I'll enjoy having a short conversation and see if they know what the why is and maybe developing something much bigger in terms of conversation, because relationships always start with a conversation that you didn't intend having. So every time I send a book to somebody that requested it, didn't have time to buy it yet, I find that a new friendship and a new relationship was developed, and we learn about each other, if you will. If you want to buy the paperback or the hardcover or through Kindle, you can go on Amazon.com and look for one of the books that I'm going to mention. The first book is called What Really Counts for CEO. And that's a book that I wrote about the idea that CEOs don't look at the company the same way that you do. And by interviewing many CEOs that thought about their marketing people as they don't even understand why they have them, and marketing and sales hate each other, so they don't communicate with each other. Finance people think that everybody else is overhead, but all these things are happening as the CEO is trying to forge a new direction. So what really counts for CEOs, kind of helping kind of understand what the CEO needs to look at, and almost kind of a letter to the CEO to say, if you don't look at all these dynamics and you don't lead, what you wind up having is basically a non-functioning company. The second book that I wrote when the digital world became kind of a real thing, not just like an email here or a video there, is called Activate. And it was, again, the idea of how do we basically activate digital marketing and digital communications to solve problems in customer service and new business, in financial management, in operations, that all basically come back to the idea that if you're looking at technology or you're looking at digital as something that will solve your problem, that you're wrong. But it offers some ways of thinking about it and kind of promoting it. And the latest book that I just dropped this year is called Don't Believe the Hype. And Don't Believe the Hype is all about the single most important coinage that companies have that is easy to lose and never easy to get back, which is trust, digital trust. And in a short version of it, think about before COVID, where we actually had human relations. We actually went to lunch with somebody. We met them at a trade show. We had a phone call, but the phone call was very kind of informal, if you will, before you got into business. And you knew a lot about the person that you're talking to. And the most important part, the company owned the narrative. And the narrative could have been, for example, we're the fastest service provider in the air conditioning industry, for example. And that was advertising, and that's what people believe or chose to believe when they saw the ads. That's where companies own their own narrative. Fast forward, we're now in a new age where you do not own your narrative. No company owns its narrative because there are things that exist on the outside, like customer review sites, employee review sites. So when you say we have the best culture in the world, and you go to a Glassdoor or any of the other employee review sites, and you're seeing this company sucks, it doesn't offer benefits, it has a horrible culture, and you should fire the CEO, or I was promised X and Y and I didn't get it.
Yeah.
While they're all anecdotal in nature, and could be just disgruntled people, that's what's out there on Google. And that forms perceptions that does not involve you. It's a narrative that is becoming something that is external and affects the credibility and the trust that people have in your product or service. And the other part is really kind of creating a framework in the book, which I call The Guardian, which has a bunch of letters that stand for something, but I'll spare you that. But it really kind of is all about the idea that in order to succeed as a company that is growing in the new economy, in AI, in digital, and with the purpose that I was talking about in the values and the company culture, you really need to have trust between the executives and the organization, and the executives and the employees. And I'll give you very two quick examples of it. How many times do we see companies fire 500 people, 1,000 people in kind of larger setting, and the employees didn't even know that they're being fired. And the story might have been they got, there was a merger, there was an acquisition, there was something that could have been explained to employees so they're able to actually uh, create a conversation and let them plan for a week so they're not
Yeah.
freaking out because they have a family and they have maybe a baby that was just born, they have mortgage. Because companies don't do that anymore, the result is rumor mills and a very negative perception of their employer because they don't trust anything that the company says anymore.
Yeah.
And conversely, uh, the mission is not shared anymore in the concept of trust. The CFO is not very trusting of the CHRO. The CHRO doesn't trust the CFO because they're not exchanging the right information. Then when operations having problems and producing bad products, nobody tells the growth group in the company. So they keep on saying we're the fastest and best uh, XYZ in the marketplace. So it's really important to build a trust framework. And obviously, it's not going to be perfect. But if the executives of the company create a culture of trust, it will involve the employees at the lowest levels as much as the CEO. And it should be an agenda item in every executive management meeting in companies. And one of the things that I offer in this book, Don't Believe the Hype, really is to kind of build your own trust meter. And the idea is not just trusting the CEO, but who basically trusts who in the company. So when a crisis occurs, you're not basically look like a liar, don't have any kind of ability to fix things. And at the end of the day, brands rise and fall based on their responses internally and externally. And going back to AI, if you will, in the last 2 weeks, both OpenAI and Claude were hacked. And there's a lot of fear in the market that if I put my chat GPT information, what's going to happen to it? If these companies that are super duper uh, protected can be hacked,
Yeah.
and in the future, AI will be able to hack them with their own tools. What does that mean? So there is a lack of trust right now, and smart people are thinking twice about putting their maybe personal details as a question on ChatGPT because it might show up somewhere in the database just the way you're not really happy to share your date of birth because it might cause your
Yeah.
credit card to appear with large spending that you didn't even know existed with a different name that was invented.
If someone, and you mentioned your email and your LinkedIn, if someone, what is the best place for someone to connect with you? Where should they go?
Definitely LinkedIn. I'm very active there, and I have thousands of thousands of followers from different walks of life, but all in the business community. So, what I urge people to do is to invite me to join their membership, and then reach out through messaging on LinkedIn and introduce yourself. And if you have any questions that I can answer, I'm always thinking of myself as kind of a person that shares the knowledge and give people tools to be able to be successful. I don't know everything. In fact, I know nothing, but by listening through the decades of working with CEOs of companies, both in the tech sector as well as other kind of professional services, uh, the people that know what they don't know will ask the right questions. And the people that think they know everything are the people that can grow. So just type Gal Borenstein and you'll find that there's only one of me with my unique name. And let's hook up and let's connect and do what adult people do, which is to actually create a relationship.
Thank you so much for coming on the Growth Signal and for sharing all of this fabulous wisdom with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. And again, if there's anybody who wants a copy of the book without having to pay for it on Amazon, reach out with a request through LinkedIn and or through our website, borensteingroup.com, and we'll be happy to oblige.